I had never heard about Neva when I first tried it. I had just recently finished playing through Gris, and Neva was recommended by the same friend. I have my full playthrough here on the channel if you want to see me play it, but if you haven't played it for yourself, you definitely should. In this video I will tell you about the game, and hopefully help you decide if it's worth playing for you. As always, we start with the numbers. Neva is not a long experience. My full playthrough lasted 8 hours, and that did include going back to get every single collectible to see the secret cutscene you can only access if you find all of them. My first playthrough of the story took me just around 6 hours, and I was slowed down by being simply not the greatest at the platforming or the game's combat. But both of those were skill issues rather than actual game issues. The game is recommended with a controller, though I choose to play with keyboard and mouse, which definitely made the game feel a little bit fiddly at times, but overall I had no issues. Neva is described by the developers as an emotionally charged action-adventure, and that is pretty accurate. You play Alba, a young woman traveling around with a wolf cub named Neva. The once peaceful world is unraveling around them as dark forces infect the land and the animals around them. You travel through this decaying world as Alba fights enemies, protecting Neva, and searching for optional collectibles and solving simple puzzles to progress the story. The game offers 2 difficulty settings, the story mode where you can't die, and the normal mode where Alba can take 3 hits from an enemy before death. Though as Alba is attacking enemies, she will also slowly gain health back, allowing you to take more hits when needed. The combat was at times surprisingly challenging, requiring some precise jumps, dodges, and uses of abilities. I did struggle at times, but it always felt like my own failing or lack of skill rather than the game being unfair. And getting past each challenge was satisfying and rewarding. I also noted that some of the platforming is more challenging than in Gris. While the main platform sections are not that difficult, if you want to get the optional collectibles, you are gonna run into some more challenging spots, which I found quite enjoyable, and sometimes a little bit frustrating as I simply was struggling. Like in Gris, if you want to go back and get the collectibles, there are several checkpoints throughout the game, which you can simply jump back through in the level selection, making going to find the collectibles noticeably easier. Now the story itself is split into seasons, where we get to watch Neva grow up and the world change around us. Each season has its own visual style, challenges and music, and as you move through the chapters, becoming bigger and adding new abilities to your roster, as he is not forever a little puppy, but instead will grow to actually fight alongside you. The added abilities in both combat and navigation give the gameplay a pleasant and gradual progression in mechanics and challenge. There is no dialogue in the game, with the story being told entirely through cinematics, music and gameplay. But even without dialogue or text, I found the story to be relatively easy to understand, and it brought me on quite the emotional rollercoaster from the very start. As the story is told entirely visually and through gameplay, the art style and music end up doing a lot of the heavy lifting. And they do deliver. Each area is lovingly drawn in a style that both manages to convey the horrifying dark moments and the soft peaceful ones. The animation of cinematics and gameplay is superb, from the fluid and fast movements of Alba and Neva to the unnerving look and behavior of the various enemies, to the scripted and beautifully rendered cinematics, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And then there is the music. Each area is paired with a fitting score that manages to be impactful when it has to be, and subtle enough to fade into the background when needed. I in fact found the music to be so enjoyable that I have now added some of it to my personal Spotify playlist. But it's not just the music, but also the silence and environmental sounds. Just like in Gris, the team excels in making the sounds of the world stand out in just the right way, coming off as crisp and sometimes viscerally gross. Be it the soft movement of snow, rustles of leaves, or the absolutely horrifying crunches as the monsters chew on something, the audio levels feel just right. It is hard not to spoil Neva because I want to emphasize how stunning the story is, but I also do not want to ruin it for anyone planning to play it, because this game, in my humble opinion, is an absolute masterpiece. It is not just worth playing, it is a must-play for anyone who enjoys these type of narrative games. The game went from something I had never heard of to one of my top 10 games of all time. It's a game I'm gonna be returning to again and again, because even knowing how the story goes, it is still an impactful and wonderful experience. So I hope if any of this sounds interesting to you that you give the game a chance. But of course that's just my opinion. Tell me, what do you think about Neva? Have you played it before or watched somebody play it? And would you be interested in giving it a go? Let's talk about it down in the comments, and while you're down there, make sure to do the good YouTube stuff. And in the end, all I wanna say is takk fyrir að horfa og eigðu yndislegan dag.